Good morning, traders. Welcome to the daily webinar. We're in our trading room right now, and this will be recorded for YouTube. So, to my YouTube viewers, good morning to you, and I hope you're enjoying the videos I post. If you do, please share them. The more you share them, the more people get access to seeing them, and the more people will decide whether this method is a good method for them, right? So let's start with the dollar index. I'll come to everything. Dollar index is still in consolidation. In the bigger picture, we're still there. Dollar index, let me show you back the daily. So dollar index and the daily is going up, right? This is nothing new. It started here and it was going up. We do have two sharp moves unfulfilled. And if you go back and you look at this piece here, you'll see all the sharp moves were fulfilled, which means the patterns eventually work out, right? They kind of create these patterns. Why, how, and all of that, don't ask me. It happens, regardless of what happens in the world. And let me say this again, regardless of what happens in the world, these patterns work. They might vary of how the pattern is going to look, but eventually they work. Because if you go back in the past, take a 50-year chart and you work at it, you would see the patterns crystal clear and they would be perfect. And then you would you'd say to yourself, wow, these are great patterns. If only I knew, I could have been buying here or selling here. But the only thing you're not asking yourself at that time is what really created those movements. Was it a war somewhere? Because we've had a lot of wars lately. Was it a tsunami somewhere? Was it a hurricane somewhere? Was it a pandemic somewhere? Was it a crash of an economy somewhere? There's so many things. All these are factoring is what creates these patterns. All put together creates these patterns. Now, sometimes when I make the forecast or when anyone makes a forecast on how a pattern should behave, you start with the standard way you know patterns behave, right? Which is the basic regular flat or basic flat patterns or basic patterns you know. And then you go into the complicated one. You don't make a forecast for running flat or an expanding triangle or all of that. You start with the basic one, and then as it changes, you watch the change and you said, okay, great. Well, this is the next likely one that could happen. Because those are patterns that exist, but you can't start by forecasting the most difficult one, right? You don't start by celebrating your 100th birthday and then go celebrate the 50th. You start by the down, right? How it develops, and as it's developing to become more complicated, you forecast a more complicated pattern. That's all, right? It's that simple. So sometimes when you look at it, like when I was here and I see this move up, I would assume that from this point we'll come here, make a flat, and then go back up. That would be the assumption. That would be the forecast. Now, that doesn't mean that if I see it turn at this point and I see that this started to go up here, I would not look at this and say, you know what, this is a flag above this stuff, we can't buy it. Of course, that's a buy. And when we saw this, we knew they were going to go one more up. When we saw this, we thought this one could come down to the bottom here, make this one here, and then go, right? Sorry, not that much, this one. Make that and go. But that didn't happen. So we're left with this sharp wave, and we're left with this sharp wave. Eventually, all these sharp waves get fulfilled. Let me go back here and show you that. So here is a case where you had a series of sharp waves, right? If you looked at it, you had a sharp wave here, a sharp wave here, a sharp wave here, a sharp wave here, and eventually you get one here. So when you go back and look at them and you said, well, where are all these sharp waves fitting in? You start with this one, you go back to the last one. This one actually was this piece, so you could take that to be the flat. You look at the size of this one and the size of this one, they fit. You look at this one, you get a flat in there, right? Actually, it would be lower, it would be this point. So you have 1, 2, 3, you have 1, 2, 3, you have 1 with a flat here and a flat there, 2, 3. Right? So now you study this pattern, you studied how it developed, right? Because it took a long time to develop, years to develop. And if you were trying to forecast each piece of how it's going to be, you might put different pieces with different pieces to think, well, this might be the complete pattern until the whole structure develops, right? When they're trending, it's much easier. So when you're going with this and you see this and you assume that this could be it and it doesn't, that's not it. It's okay. It doesn't mean we don't know we're not going up. It doesn't mean we don't buy. It means we wait for setups to buy. So when you're in this structure here and you're working here, you could buy this one to go back to the top at least. That would be your assumption. Once it started to consolidate, you get a buy if you want. You're going back a little higher. And we'll be selling some of them. We sold pound, we sold euro. There are a number of trades that we took, right, that we were buying and selling. So you would look at this and then you'd say, well, okay, good. We still don't have this. So at some point, if you see a sell setup here, you go for it because there's a good chance it could be this one. It could be that they'll still consolidate and go, and you will get this, I don't know, within a month or two from now. If you see a flag here, it's a buy setup. You take it, but what you have to be careful with a flag like that is that at any point in time, it can turn. So you're aware of that. It doesn't mean you don't trade. It just means you are aware. You have knowledge that someone else doesn't have. And that is good for you to trade, right? Because you can see that there'll be a lot of flags that you can buy or sell, and you'll take the trades. Silver, same thing. We still have the big flat. That has not gone anywhere. These sharp moves have not disappeared. They're still here, which means at some point you're going to get them. It will happen, right? If you look back here, you'll see that these sharp moves there, they eventually followed by another sharp move. You still get them. Hindsight, you can see them clearly. So you have to be aware that even if it goes up a little more here, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right? Look how high this one went before it happened, right? See, this was the top of this one. And this is how much more they went before they eventually dropped. So this going up just a little above this doesn't mean anything. It means that you're getting a running flat now. Good. When you come to the 4 hour, you see that we had this one, which was, that one is incomplete. If you take a smaller version of that, look, this is a smaller version. They went up, they came down. So at some point, this will come back here, go break the top, and maybe then come for the bigger one. So this has to fulfill itself first. And then, which means if I get a sell set up here, I would go with it. Right? We took the sell. If you remember, we took the sell from the top here because we assumed the bigger one was going to start. So we took that sell, this drop. We looked at this here. We sold here, and we sold there. There were 3 sells we took on the lower time frame in that. There was a sell we took in this. All of those trades closed for either break even or small profit. This one was the only profitable one that really went to where you wanted to go. Now we're looking for a sell setup here. If we get a flag here, if this turns out to be a flag, we're going for this sell, assuming that it's going to do this. It might not do that. And this is the danger of you just watching my webinar on trading than being in my group and trading, because in the group, there will be hourly updates to this, which means we have about 5 or 6 sessions in the day where we will update the information as to the pattern that are created in the lower time frame. So even if I put a sell setup here now, and this thing comes back to the top here, I would take off this and we'll be looking for a possible buy setup at the top there to go. So the sell by the end of this day can change into a buy for a short-term trade, which means we'll expect the next move down from above the top. And that's the difference, is that this is a weekly webinar for you, whereas we have 5, 6 of this a day in the trading room. You might want to consider whether you want to be in that room. So let's go. If you want to be, check the description for how to join us. They'll tell you how to get. So let's go. We're looking at this and we're waiting for a flag here. We would assume that they would do this and then go back up, completing this flat pattern. Right? This one is not perfect for sellers yet, so we'll leave it. Put it in gold, same structure, same everything. We already have an entry order for a sell in gold. That could change if this flag becomes a flat at the top there. As of now, it's a flag. So we're keeping the sell set up there. And we'll expect it to do this. If it doesn't do that, we'll get out of the trade. We have trade management that tells us what changes and how we get out of the trade. So we're looking for this and then one more up and then they're downside. Right? That's the forecast for this bigger pattern, because we still haven't completed the bigger pattern, right? We're still in this bigger daily pattern. That is not completed, right? We're still in this. And this still has the most correction in it, right? So, and this has a big one here. So there's a good chance you're going to come back here, go back up, complete all of this, and then we'll see whether this comes back down or continue to go. We'll see which one of that. But for now, we want this one. We want that sharp impulse down. So we're looking for a sell from the top there. This might be an indication to how everything is going to go. I'm not going to go into all the details. We're just finishing our trading room. But if we get a flag here, we're looking for this to come here, go back up, and then drop. There might be one more up after that, but then it's going to drop. As long as it stays in this range, we're expecting it to go down. And this is a very good sell setup, by the way. Euro came down more. I thought they'll probably make a running flat here with this, probably go back up a little and then, come down, but we didn't get that running flat. So we'll have to question whether we look at this as the running flat now. This bigger one is the running flat because this is sharp, right? And this could be a small flag within. We'll have to decide on that. You could make an argument for that running flat, but this is also sharp and we haven't got anything for this as well. So there are 2 of them we haven't got anything for. And we might still get one sharp one like this. So if you put it in the 4-hour, we're still going down, but there's a few, just like the dollar index, we don't have this sharp wave and we don't have this sharp wave. So at some point in time, this would have to go back up for this one, even if we assume that that's a running flat in there. Some point in time, this would have to go back there, complete this running flat, drop beyond this, and then go back for a deeper correction. And that is why it's wave analysis, because you end up creating waves within the structure. So we'll be looking at this point to see whether there's any sell set up to the downside, which means if you get a flag, you can sell. If you see flags that are small and you want to sell, once you're under this here, if there's a flag there to sell, you can sell. This would be a sell. This would be a sell if you get a flag. If we get a flag to buy, we'll be buying up. And then we'll anticipate that it's going to get a drop. So right now, if this makes a flat, it's a sell setup. If they stay here for a while, this would become a sell setup. Short term, which means you only get one trade. Take it off. Don't keep it. Because you're expecting that at any point it can go back up. So if you get another flag, you're going to take another trade. Same thing. You're anticipating that up because it is very likely going to happen. And there are two of them to come. Pang. This was a good sell. We actually took this because this was easy. That we're sold out. We close it. We re-enter here. We close it. There's another sell setup forming here. I think we'll get another sell setup here. In the big picture, I don't think this has to go back up. No. This could literally fall because if you make an assumption that these two are, this is a running flat, then we can come and break this low, which means if you get a flag here, you go for another sell. Would it eventually go back up? Well, not necessarily if you go in the bigger picture, right? This is the bigger picture. We're literally, we made a move up, we made a move down, we made a move up. So there's a very good chance that this one could just work its way back to the bottom here before they go up. Break this low as a running flat there and then go back up. It will go back up, but not now. They could come all the way to the bottom. So if we continue to get sell setups, we'll take it. Now they're going to be deeper pullback, absolutely. At some point they'll be. So every flag we get, we'll take it and take profit off. If it goes far, good. If it goes short, not so good, but you still take it off. Aussie is going up. That was a buy setup because we broke out of this structure and we were assuming that it could take off like a rocket. Right, we're breaking out of this. This is the daily up move. This is the consolidation. This could be all the consolidation we take off. By the way, you should go back and watch. I think about sometime last year when this was going up, I did these forecasts on the weekly charts, telling you that Aussie will eventually make a correction deep enough to go back up. I think when we were in this one, we said this is going to go up, then you'll have a deep correction and you're going to continue to go. You should go back and watch those forecasts because then you understand how patterns develop, right? I think it is only on Aussie pairs. It's sometime last year, it's called forecast only on Aussie pairs, which was showing these going up and some of the other Aussie pairs coming down like Euros and Pounds. So this one is already breaking out, which means any flag, any correction will be looking for buy setups. Right, this was a buy on Friday. You can take it off now, it's finished. We'll be looking for a correction or a flag and we'll buy again. Well, they're making another one here, I think. It started. You kind of see this one here. They're going up. They'll probably consolidate here for a while. And then we get another buy setup. And that'll be good. So we'll see. New Zealand, same thing. This is going up. This one, once you're above the stop, you can buy. So this would be a buy and you probably get a buy there. This one is not so good as the Aussie. We actually took the Aussie rather than New Zealand because New Zealand is still in the correction. See? So when I think we were trading an Aussie pair. We were trading dollar pair, I think, or something. We put the Aussie for the buy and skip the New Zealand because we're expecting this to come back here. And then it will have to break out like New Zealand or like Aussie, or it will have to come back down at this point. So every flag you get now, you can take it to this level. Right, take the flags to that level and we'll see what happens. Flag correction, whatever you get, however you trade, depending on your strategy as well. It looks like we might be making a small flat here. I think this could spend some time into a small flat here, and this would be a very nice trade to the top. Once you're here, you'll have to find a way to get the hell out of the trade, wait for another correction, then take it, unless it actually goes straight through. Then you can stay with it. Cad. Okay, we started that move. I think we were in the buy, we closed it. We're in this buy, we're in this buy, we closed it. It's not going up as we expected. It's not going down as we expected. So it's still in the middle of nowhere. Let's wait some more. If this becomes a flat, we'll buy. On the sell side of it, I really don't see the sell setup unless we think this is an expanding flat there. Then it's possible. I'll keep this here for now. I don't want to go with an expanding flat unless I can see it. It's consolidating here. You're getting a small consolidation, very small consolidation in here. Not a really good one. So I think we'll skip that. It's already, the buy is already gone. If you wanted to buy it here, it's not quite the best buy setup, sell setup, sorry. So we'll wait on this. It's in the middle of this big consolidation. You can see that it's in the middle of this big consolidation. I don't see any, on the pattern side, I don't see this literally coming back to the low here. It could, but it's not fitting with all the patterns we have. This would be a better pattern for the upside. So let's see if that happens, then this whole thing becomes more complicated. This is still your impulse up. So it's how complicated this pattern becomes. In any case, if you miss this trade, trade something else with a CAD in it or with a US dollar in it. And then what you do from the bottom here, you start buying. That would be an easier trade. The probability of that trade would be higher. It would be on your side. We were selling this. We didn't sell the CAD, but we sold this. Right, so we sold this on Friday, and I think you might get another sell here. So if you sold it on Friday, you should take your profit there because we were thinking that this could also be a flat. So it has to prove two things to us, that this is the flat and we're going back up. We would look for buy setups. So this trade is over. Or it actually consolidates here, and then we would assume whether this could be the flat. Because we did break the top. And this is coming down. Well, why I'm not going with this flat is because this move down was really, really slow. So I'm not going with the bigger flat as yet. It's possible, but I'm not going with that. You can look at this as a leading diagonal. That is the correction. And you're going for a new low. Where would that take us? Probably just come back to about this level here. If this does go down, all it needs to do is come back to about here and then it can go straight up. We'll probably have a much more complex pattern developing in this piece. The ending structure of this thing is going to be very complex. That's all. But if they go up from here, it will be much easier. If they go up from here, they can literally just take off. So let's see if we get the buy. And by the way, you remember this one, right? When we said we were going to come and tag that top. And that is okay. They started really sharp, made a deep correction, made a sharp move, made a bigger correction here, made another move up sharp. And we got another flat here. And now you're getting this. See that consolidation? It's similar to this consolidation in this running flat. See, look at these two running flats. See this consolidation here? It's very similar to what we're getting here. After which we're expecting this move up. So if it is to repeat what they did here, considering that both of those are running flats, if this consolidation inside of the running flat happens there, then there's a good chance you look for the buy setup, which is why I said if it goes down, you ignore the sell on the 1 hour. If it comes down, you ignore the sell. If you can't get a good sell setup, you ignore it. But once it breaks the low and it turns, you go for the buy. That would be better. If we get a buy setup here, we'll take it. It isn't a buy or a sell as yet. So we'll take this off. That trade is over. Swiss, it went sideways. It's still going sideways. Looks like this might become a bigger flat here. This piece, which means the upside is limited. It might just like this. See this flat here, 1, 2, 3, and then drop. Kind of make a 1, 2, 3 here, go back within the structure and drop one more. Possible. And then we can look for the buy setup. So if you don't get the sell, ignore it. There's no buy setup. Take it off. I think we were looking for a buy. We will take it off now because I don't think this is going to take off. We're also in a big consolidation. You can see that pretty big consolidation. So you can also do the same thing like you would do on CAD. Wait for it to come back to this low. Do this, come back to the low, and then you buy your way up. See, we'll go with this as the big flat. You'll have 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to buy your way up. We're going to be looking for this move up. Right? It might eventually go like this, which means come here, make a sharp move, then start to make some really big consolidations here. Go break the top and then come back down. We'll be looking at this pattern. See? So all in all, this would become one huge consolidation in the middle there. Well, let's see how that plays out. put it back here. In the short term, we have a buy setup. We're going to ignore that for now until it breaks this top and come back. And the sell would be a good idea. Euro Oz coming down very nicely. These were short sells. This sell would have been closed and another sell could have been entered here. If anybody was trading, this would have been another sell setup. If this consolidates, you go for another sell. Big picture, it's downside, right? It's going down where to? Well, if you look at the weekly, you'll see where it's going to, right? There's a good chance we're coming to this low, right? This is the first move down. This is the up move, and this move is coming down. By the way, this move here came from somewhere at the bottom here. So this move was something up like this. This is a flat you're making in the middle here. And then you expect to go back up. That will take a while. This at some point will start to consolidate. It's not going to go down in a straight line. So if you're trading it, you have to be aware that this would start to pull back very sharp. You will get a deeper pullback, right? There'll be some deep corrections before they go. So if you're trading this and you probably close your trades every time, we close them in the smaller time frame, re-enter the trades because the same thing. So if you're looking at this here now, we'll watch for this to consolidate here and then sell. I think this could become a bigger consolidation. It might even be a buy setup, which means if you get a flag here, you can take a buy for one impulse, and then you're gonna have a bigger consolidation. The first impulse up might be some small trades, and then you're gonna have a deeper consolidation and then a drop. So there's a good chance that if we're gonna retrace this impulse, and that is you're talking about this entire impulse, it could be a sharp move up. So the buy might be a good idea to look out for. And it seems like we might get a buy setup here. We might get a flag here for a buy. That is counter to the trend because this is only a correction to the upside we were anticipating. Euro New Zealand also. I post the update. I'll probably do one more with the update in the Euro New Zealand. Any buy setup in the Euro New Zealand, we'll take it now. So let's go back. I did the Euro New Zealand trade for you guys. And remember what we said. We thought this could be the start of the upside. And that was okay because the buys were good in them, right? And then we figure out that we also saw this. So we figure out that it turned out to be that and they're coming down. What they need to do is break this low. So these were sell setups. We had a few more sells in here as well. And they break the low. So at this point, any buy setup we get will go with. Any buy setup now is an up move that is possible to finish this structure. Right? Can it go lower? Of course. They can correct and go lower, correct and go lower. But all the buy setups we get will take. So if we get a buy here today, we'll definitely take the trade. I think we might be looking at a possibility for that same thing in the Euro Oz, is that if you get a flag here, you're looking for a buy setup. Now, this might just be a correction up and drop again, but we will still take the buy. As long as you can manage the trade properly, you don't have to worry about that buy. Euro Cad, same here, this was a sell. I think if we get another flag, we'll set a flatter flag here, we'll sell. If we see a reversal point, I don't think this is early for a reversal. That is too small. But if we see a reversal, we might consider the buy. Euro Swiss. We didn't sell this one here because that was a sharp move and you didn't have anything for a sell here. And we just let this drop. So because you had better sell setups in the Euros, Euro New Zealand, Euro Cad. This drop here now in the bigger picture, you're at the bottom of the structure. Really, really at the bottom of the structure, right? You're way down at the bottom here. So the question is, how do you look at this whole structure? If we looked at this as some kind of a 1, this can be a 2 and a 3, right? If you look at it like that, which I doubt it is, this doesn't make sense for a 2. Right? So then if you look at all of this as making a bigger correction, let's go with this. Since this is sharp up and this is sharp down, let's go with all of this making some bigger correction here. So this coming up here and coming down back would lead you to 1, 2, 3, right? So if you look at it this way, and this as the correction, you're going with 1, 2, 3. So at some point, you've got to go back up for this one, right? Go back up for this one, make that flat, and then come down back before you go up, right? Come down. I don't know how low this is going to go, but then you can go up after that. So there's still some more downside here. And how low this goes, depending on what type of running flat you're going to look for. So go back to the 1 hour now. If you get flags or correction, we'll sell. If we see a reversal, we'll take the buy, assuming that if they're going back up, they're going to do this. This could still be possible. Go back up there and then drop. Now, this doesn't have a big correction in it, but there's a lot of small moves in it. So if we get a buy setup here, we'll probably take the trade. You need a flag for that. Take the trade, put it to break even. Euro yen. Euro yen, we didn't sell because it's in this big correction, is the bottom of the correction. And can they break the correction? Absolutely. I showed this structure previously where the correction was broken, but then they went right back up. Here is a good one. You are in this flat here until this drop beyond the flat and then take off to the upside. So this drop here, any buy setup you get, you're going for that trade. It's still a flat. I don't think this flat is telling us that we're coming back here. I don't think that's the point. I think this one is still trying to go up, so we'll wait for that. Which means I don't think this here is a flat for downside. I'm not looking at it that way. I'm looking at all of this as the correction. And this one breaking out doesn't mean anything. It just means from there you can go up. So we'll keep an eye here. If we get buy setup, we'll take it. If I get sell setup, I'll consider it because there are better sell setups to go in. But any buy setup here will be a trade. So if you get sell setup, it's going to be one drop. You have to take profit off. Because after that, the chances are it's going to go right back up. 1 second, guys. Sorry, guys, my son just came in the room. I had to answer him. Yeah, 1 second. My apologies to that. Let's go ahead. Yeah. So we're looking for buy setups here, especially now that it's broken the low and broken everything. If you get a sell setup, it's still possible you can take the trade, but you'll have to be very cautious. The buy would be a better trade to the upside because risk to reward in the buy. And if there's any sharp move coming, it's likely going to come that way. Right? All we need to do is break this stop. That's all we need to do. So this was the trade we took from here. Remember this one. Once they break out of this, we assume that this one is going to go break the top. We didn't see this coming, but that's okay. That's part of the trade. Just like this one is part of the impulse. This is part of the impulse. These are corrections that you make with it. Can we assume this is going to drop here? Not as yet. Probably it could if you think of this as a contracting flat, but we will go with that much later if we start to see bigger corrections here to downside. As of now, I'm still considering that there's a good chance this is the flat for upside. European, this dropped. Another one that once you're in this structure, at the bottom of that structure, you don't sell into the bottom of this structure. So if we're going to get any sell now, what I want to see is a consolidation here under the structure. And that will be a sell, assuming they're coming down. And then we'll figure out whether this finished somewhere here or somewhere here. Right, so this is a correction, a running flat. We just don't know where the hell it stopped. It's kind of difficult in that there are too many pieces to it, and you can try to put all the pieces together. They fit differently, so we're leaving it open because you can make an assumption that this flat finished a long time back, and you would be wrong about it. Just like if you think it's finished already, you could be wrong because this could stop right here, go back up like that, and then drop, and then we'll eventually put these two together. That would be it, right? So don't make the assumption it's finished, especially when you have so many parts in it. You can prepare each part and keep it open. That at some place you might have to change that, right? Because what you're doing is you're trying to see what is the bigger pattern and how many smaller pieces in it. And when you have so much numerous amount of possibilities of how you put this, that makes it difficult. So at the bottom here, if we get a consolidation, I probably wait for not a flag, but a flat, then I'll sell. The flat will give me a good idea that there's a bigger impulse coming. A flag is just one short impulse. Pound CAD was a sell. I hope my traders took this. This was sell on Friday. If you took it and you close it and you re-enter, you're doing good. You should close it here, re-enter in this piece. We'll still look for more sell setups. We're at the bottom here. Let's see if it goes lower. And if this goes lower, we'll consider whether we'll change it to this one. This is pretty sharp. So, I was thinking more of a running flat. But if it continues to go break the low, we will end up with this as the all the correction, maybe with this piece. We'll figure out what it is. It could still turn from here and go back, but every sell setup will take. So I'll leave this open. And every sell setup would be one more down. This would be the most corrective part in that structure, because you're going to have two huge corrections in it, which we didn't have in any of the pieces before in this bigger correction, right? In this bigger correction, we had maximum 1, 2, 3. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if that happens, where that takes us. Come back to the 1 hour. Any flag would be a sell. So any flag we get here would still be a sell setup. I think you could end up with another flag here, and that would be a sell setup too. Pound Swiss. This was a good sell. You would have closed, re-enter here. That was a good sell. You can look for a sell setup here as well. This is becoming more of a flat than a flag. So we'll have to look for a better entry, right, on this one. Because if this consolidates here much more, if they consolidate here much more, we'll have to look for an entry somewhere from the top here going down. Can it make a sharp move up? Yes, this thing has been making a series of sharp moves up. That's why we sold this. All those sharp moves keep coming lower. So if this is going to be a sharp move up, we'll look for a sell setup again, right? Powers, these were all the Aussie pairs, right? This was good sell. This was a good sell. You probably would have had a sell here this morning. At this one, if you were trading this morning in the Asian session, that'd be a sell. If it makes a flag here or a flat, something like this, or like this, that would be a sell setup. We don't have a reversal here as yet. Can it reverse from this point? Well, not necessarily. It could come lower than this point here, depending on how you look at this structure. So there are two ways to look at it. One is that we're probably still making an expanding flat, or this is the running flat in the middle with a 1, 2, 3, and this one is literally coming down like this. So there's more downside to break these lows and go, which means any flag you get would be a sell setup. Any flag or flat would be a sell setup. This would be more of a bigger one if it goes from here. Can it make a deeper correction? Possible. This impulse is a little too sharp. Let me see in the 15. Actually, it's a big impulse. So if we end up with a flag here, like this goes back up and pull here, we could probably go for a buy setup, assuming that they're going to make a deeper correction, not the end of the move. That would be the assumption until you get a bigger 4-hour correction. Pang Yen, this would be a sell here. Let's see what the bigger picture is. Okay, so Pang Yen, you'd have to be careful with that sell because we're in this big sideways move here. And some point this would probably go make a new high because I don't see this as the top. This is too deep a pullback. So at some point we will go make a new high. There might be a trade more to the bottom here. It's probably coming down. So there's maybe one more drop you can get there. And then after that, you'll have to be really careful. Pound New Zealand, this was a good sell. Actually, the first sell was here, which was closed. This was the next sell. This could have been a nice sell this morning. You would probably be closing it somewhere here now. And let's see if this becomes a correction like this, or if we get a flag there for an up move. Can we get an up move from here? Let's see. Very likely you could. So if they're going to go back up, this is the point from where they can go back up, right? This is the point where it could go back up. If we looked at this as the bigger flat in there, then this would probably go through the low. Right? We're looking at this move down. At some point, this has to correct. That is really sharp. So if you see all the sharp moves down, eventually make a correction. This one was more of a running flat here. But they make a correction, right? All the sharp moves down eventually make a correction. Any sharp move you look at eventually makes a correction. So at this point, this would definitely make a correction before it drops. It's not going to drop through straight through. So you go to the 1 hour, and at this point, you're assuming that it's going to be either a deeper correction and they go, or a small flat and they drop. So if you get any chance of a buy setup here, to retrace the entire move, it might be worth taking because it's going to be a sharp impulse up first, then a deeper correction, then another impulse, depending on how complex it becomes, right? If this comes lower, then you just look for a flat and one more trade down. Aussie Yen. We bought this, we'd have closed the trade somewhere here, re-enter, close the trade. If you bought here, you close that as well. I'm looking for where the good entry is going to be. There's no good entry here. It's at the top, but there's no good entry. Probably look for a sell setup. See? We're in this correction, and this is the sharp move down. Now, can this go break that top like gold and silver? They can. Right? But here's the thing. Every time you're here and you get a sell setup, you'll take it. You're assuming it's coming back to this low. As a 1, 2, 3, go back up there, come back here, and then go. This will become the daily correction because this is an impulse coming from the bottom. Put the daily structure, you'll see that. Right? This is your daily impulse, pretty huge. So this correction will take a very long time here, which means at some point this, even if we go break that top, starts to come back here, go back up, come back here, and then go, you'll end up with this. And that's a simple flat pattern, which means that's the simplest way this thing to develop. It could get more complex than that, right? But guess what? For trading purpose, you know where you are in the zone. So when you get to the top, you look for sells. When you get to the bottom, you look for buys. Pretty easy, as long as you know what you're doing, right? So we were buying this up because we know that this would eventually have to break these tops. And now at the top there, I'll be very careful. For me to take a buy setup here, I have to have a perfect setup. For me to take a sell, anything will go, right? For me to sell it from that top, any sell setup would go on even the 15 minutes. So if I get a 15-minute sell setup, I'll take the trade. But for a buy, I have to have a perfect flat or a perfect flag before I go. So we'll keep an eye on this. Most likely a sell setup would be there soon. We'll see how that goes. Aussie, New Zealand. Stay away from that thing. It's really slow. Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss also, I think, is at the top of something here. Do we think this is breaking out now? I don't think it's breaking out because we have this big flat here still. I don't think that's all the correction that we're taking off, like, you know, to the top, because we can make an assumption that we're breaking out of this and this is going to take off, right? But this is really sharp, right? This is your first move down. This one is really sharp. This is really sharp, and this is very corrective. So there's a good chance that this, at some point here, comes back down here, complete a flat pattern like this. Go back up there, complete a flat pattern like this, and then come down here before we go. Right, with a bigger flat in the middle. Can it go higher and do that? It's possible. That is also possible. So at the top here, if you get any buy setup, you'll be very, very cautious now. But if you get a sell setup, you'll absolutely take it. Right, so do we have a sell setup there now? We might get one. Let's see if this goes higher or if it starts to come down from that point. Right, it's a little early to tell, but if this turns out to be a flat, something like this, come back like this would become a buy setup for one more impulse. Just one more impulse. If you took this one, you take one more impulse, close your trade. If you took this one, you'd close the trade here. If you took this one, you'd close your trade here. Because at any point, one of this could drop. So you wait to see. If you get a sell setup, you take the trade. Aussie Cad. I like this sell here. Let's see what the bigger picture is. Okay, we'll have to be careful with that. So that sell could be more of a correction happening. So this, again, the Aussie trades, all of them have this impulse, and this was all the move down. Now, I think I find this hard to be all the entire correction. That looks like just one single move to me, which means this would have to be part of a bigger correction forming here. And this means that this could start to actually go back down all the way here, come back here, go back down, come back here. Go. We might end up with this going up as the B part of it, get another piece down, and then up, right? This might just end up being the A part, with this being a running flat in the middle here. This piece here, just a running flat in the middle. So a sharp move down, a running flat, a sharp move down, and we're reversing now. We broke out of that. You can take this off. And this is the first move of the corrective part going up. If you look at it this way, this is the first move of the correction going up. Now, This could also be the next impulse going up if you think this is all the correction. So let's assume both correct. That's all the correction, we're going up, or eventually this is going to prove to be just, just a part of the correction. So if you get a flag here, you sell for part of a correction, bigger correction happening here, because this is just one move up, right? This is just one move up. You sell this hoping that this comes something like this, start to do this, and then go up. So you'll be trading in this for a week or two, and then you'll go up, right? Now, this move will either go really sharp, or this move will go just slightly and make a bigger correction here, and then slightly and make a bigger correction here. And now you end up with a corrective structure to go one more down and then up. Or this takes off like a rocket. But the sell setup here for a correction is possible. What will change the sell? Let's go. What will change the sell? Well, if it goes back to the top, right? If it becomes, instead of a flag, which they're making right now, it becomes a flat. So I want this to come down here, go back up there, give me this little flat, and that's a good sell setup. Now, it's not a sell to go break the low, it's a sell within a correction, right? So the first impulse down of a 4-hour correction. I hope you understand that, right? So let's see. New Zealand Swiss. What's the bigger picture? All of these, you have to look at what is the bigger picture, because they've moved quite a lot. This can go up some more. Depending on how this pattern is going to develop, it could go up some more. Right, you could look at this. We still haven't broken that up, so we're still within the correction, right? This is all still correction, and all of this is still correction. Now, this was a sharp move up, and this was pretty much a sharp move down as well. So if this goes back up to the sharp move, we'll decide whether we look at that as a running flat for one more down, or whether this is going to break out. Now, this can be the correction. It can be part of the correction, not the correction. So at some point, we will know whether this comes back down before it goes. And I think that was likely going to happen. Where this goes up there, come back down, and then go. So do we have a buy setup in it? Nope, not as yet. We don't have a buy. We don't have a sell. We'll have to just wait. Wait until this consolidates and tell us whether it's a buy or sell. New Zealand Cad. It's at the top of something. Let's see where that line comes from. Well, it's at the top of this structure, and this structure could go down or break out. All right, we're looking at this. Go to the weekly. This is where you are, and this structure could either break out, retest this top, or drop one more to this low and then break out, retest the top. It will still break out, retest the top. So the question is whether we think this is going to drop one more. Let's go to the day, go back to the 4-hour. We don't have anything in the 4-hour. The 1-hour, it might be a sell setup short term. I'll be very careful because it could be just a correction, but we could go for a sell if we get a flag here. We'll go for a sell here. And if they just do this to come back up and make a correction here and then go, we'll get out of this trade. If it's dropping more, make flags drop, we'll sell, because that means they'll go retest this low all the way back to the bottom here. So two things, either they make a flat here, we get a flat somewhere here, something like this, and up, or you actually come down like this, back to the low. We'll see which one, right? And that's the good thing when you're in the trading room, where you can update that and you can see which direction it's going to go. You'll need a lot more update to decide whether it's a sell. It's more likely a sell at this moment. Right now, as it stands, it's more likely a sell setup. It's not complete. It's still very early. It has to come back here, go back up there, maybe even do a few more like this, and then it will be a perfect sell setup. New Zealand Yen, let's go. Where we are in the big picture. Not much here, right? So we'll have to wait and see what this develops into, because we're at the top of this piece here. And depending on how you look at this entire piece, if you look at this as the flat, and this is the impulse up, then this becomes the impulse down, and you might be making either a flat with this here for downside, or all of this now will make a bigger correction and continue to go up. See? It's not enough. This is not all the correction. So some downside is possible. Would this work its way up to the top, then come down, make a flat like that, and then go? So there might be more upside, but the downside is going to happen. So let's see in the 4-hour. It looks very much downside. You have 1, 2, 3, and that means we could come down back pretty much. Let's go to the 1 hour, see if we have any sales set up. Not as yet. So if you see when we had this sharp move, we said we have to get 1 sharp move down, go back up pretty much similar to this, and then see if we get sell set up. So if we get a sell set up here, this would be a very good trade. See the 15 what it looks like. No, not a sell as yet. And it's not a sell as yet. It's just 1 pullback. So it will take a long time before you get a trade set up there. Maybe by the end of today. Swiss yen. Okay, Swiss yen is going down. Let's see where that is taking us. We broke this, so we can assume that that is all the correction there now. It didn't go higher, and which means we're coming down back to this level. What would be the... We have a flat in here already, so I'll take this out, put it here. We have a flat in this piece already, so you can go in 1, 2, 3. And this means that this would probably come down back lower to this level. And if you take this to be all the correction there, the sharp move up, correction, there's impulse here, correction there, drop. So go to the 1 hour, any trade setups we can sell. Go to the 4 hour, let's see. You do have a flag for a sell. It might pull back. You'll have to keep a stop for my traders. You'll have to keep a stop higher because it could be a running flat. This could go drop like this, pull back, then drop, making a running flat here. So you have to keep a bigger stop for this. That's for my traders because I'm not making any trade call to anybody here, right? We just show my trader. I just showed my trader what strategy we'll use for that trade. If we take it, then we're probably going to take that sell. Cad Swiss. Okay, we came down. Let's see. Probably a little more down. I don't think they'll turn from here. If it turns from there, we look at this as a flat. Break the top and come back down because this would still be a big correction. See? If that happens, you'll be looking at that more as a big correction. So let's see if this goes back. Do we have a buy setup? Well, not as yet. This is not clearly a flag unless it pulls back like this, make a running flat, and then decide to go. Then we'll probably have a trade. It could come down here and then do this, and then it's more of a sell setup back to this low. So if it consolidates there, this would be the sell. And then from here, they can go up, right? From this point, it can go up. So let's see if we get the sell first. If this consolidates and drop. If it's going to go up, we need a very good flag from there to buy. Cad yen broke the top, came down back. Let's see. Can we put it like this? It's not quite clearly that one because this is literally not that big. And you have a big flat in here. You have a flat in here as well. So unless we're going to look at this as 1, 2, 3 for an expanding flat, then a flag here would be a good sell to the low and then upside. So this trade would be a very small one. And then upside because we're still in the flat. If we had broken the top here, I would assume we're going down because I would assume this is 1, 2, 3, and we're going down. But if we get a flag here, we will still sell it. When it comes here, they'll tell us whether this is a contracting flat. If it's a contracting flat, it will keep dropping. But I doubt it's a contracting flat. Forecasting a contracting flat is the worst thing you can do. That's really difficult to do, right? Because anything could be a contracting flat. This would probably come back all the way to this low if it is a contracting flat. If not, we'll stop. You can exit the trade. We'll go back up, make a new high, then come down. So, okay, guys, what I'll do is this one has been a long one. I'll close the webinar here for my traders and for my YouTube viewers. Please, if you like it, share it. You will get the second part just a little bit later. Thank you very much.